Okay, if you saw game three, you know that result wasn't what I had hoped. The next round, round four, was played July 5th at 11 a.m. in the morning. So after having lost last night, I'm pretty disappointed, and I don't mind losing if I put in all the practice time that I should have, which I didn't. I wanted to do 100 games after the Chicago tournament and before the World Open. I didn't. I did get close to 50 games in, but of those 50 games, I only really studied uh, less than 20, maybe 20. The idea of playing the games is that you study, you identify your weaknesses, and you can make corrections. But in any case, this is round four. And it's going to be pretty quick. E4, E5, attack, defend, ruler pass opening. And the other thing they said for this game, I'm not going to take all day going through the opening. I take, what, 30 minutes? I take sometimes 30 minutes just to get through opening moves because I'm trying to determine which variation I'm going to play and make sure that there's nothing that I miss. Because I don't memorize openings, I attempt to understand the opening and play from there. Whereas my opponents many times can just make instant moves because they really don't understand the opening, they just memorize the variation, which whatever works for you. I like actually understanding what's going on, but it's going to cost you some time. In this game, I said I wasn't going to do that. If I already have memorized the opening, I'm just going to play the moves and make up for it in the middle game. So here he's attacking my pawn. I castle out. He breaks the attack on his knight for my bishop. I move the bishop over. And I'm making these moves pretty quickly because they're really standard moves until this one. This is a variation I have looked at. Now again, I could spend a lot of time trying to understand all the nuances of the move at the board. I'm not doing that this game. So I went ahead and I made the D3 move. I could have spent 15 minutes and still made this D3 move. He prevents my bishop from pinning his knight. I want to push through the center. He protects his pawn so that he can move his knight. Okay, I offer the exchange. The computer doesn't think very highly of this move. Let's see, what did it actually recommend? Here the computer wanted d4 right away. My plan is to play d4, but I didn't see any problems with trying to give additional support to that move. Well, I see what the computer is saying. If I play d4 right now, take, this e4 pawn is loose, but it's right in front of the king, and if you move your rook over, you'll pin. So it's actually protected indirectly. By me playing the bishop out, that pawn no longer has indirect protection. Now, I kind of was questionable about that move from him because it reminded me of moves that I make. You're really not developing anything. You're supporting this pawn on the edge of the board. If you push up to b5, white doesn't have to respond to it. He can just continue his development, which is what I did. And there's the d4 push. Now the computer says white has a slight advantage. He drops back. In this position, which is a very critical position, your breakthroughs are very critical. The computer agrees that d takes e5 is appropriate. Now the computer gives me a strong advantage. I take off his bishop, he takes off my knight. Now in this position I felt comfortable that I was going to win a pawn. Take his bishop off. His rooks are actually disconnected. He's not castled. His king's still in the center of the board. So I have some advantages here. Now I'm a pawn up. Now he cannot try to recover the pawn right now. If he goes knight to e4, the game's pretty much over. He's going to lose a piece instead of just a pawn. So I'm sitting there. I've only spent maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and I've already played 14 moves. Under normal circumstances, getting through 14 moves would have been at least a half an hour. But I said I'm not doing that for this game. I don't know if I'm going to go back to it, but for right now, he took at e4, so he's going to be down a pawn. He's going to be down a piece instead of a pawn. I already know that, and the computer agrees. There is absolutely nearly no compensation at all for the piece he's about to lose. He attacks my knight. I attack his rook. His rook has nowhere to go. Now the rook is locked into a little cubbyhole. You never want your pieces into a little cubbyhole where they can't move. I take the extra piece off with check. He blocks it. Now he has 2 pieces defending that knight. I already know I can put 3, 4 pieces on that knight. Now I have 3 pieces. He tries to defend it with his king. He steps out 1 pin from the rook. Now he's at another pin from the bishop, so I don't even have to rush and take it. I get my other pieces involved. Now he's forcing me to take it with the knight. I take it with my knight. He takes with his bishop. Now this is important. If I take with my bishop, I get check, and his king goes on about his business. If I take with my rook, he has to respect the discovered check that can come from the bishop, so he takes it off with his rook. Now that rook is pinned. I can put another piece on it. His other rook cannot defend that rook, so he's going to lose a rook. He's already down a knight and a bishop, so yeah, things are looking pretty bad. He gives up the rook. I think at that point he resigned. Okay, so that was a quick game of 23 moves. I only used, I don't know, maybe, what do I have here? "28 minutes on my clock," so I was in my room really quick. All right, that's round 4, so I have 3 wins and 1 loss so far. That's better than I've been doing. All right, bye for now.